What's going on? This is Tori Kravitz from the KNOTFEST podcast. She's with the band, and we've got our first round two with a guest. We've got Fernanda from Crypta back on the podcast, and this time finally in person.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, and thank you so much for inviting me back to the podcast, and mainly, like in person is a whole different vibe. I love just being able to be here and, like see you, and also being in the States. It's so, I don't know, unique and special to be able to do the podcast this way. But so, thank you for having me here. Thank you all for tuning in.
Yes. I mean, there's just so much to unpack with that because, the first time we spoke was over Zoom. I remember we had a few little Wi-Fi glitchy things, and that always changes the conversation. And that's why I've been so excited to do them in person. And you're on your headlining tour. Today's day one in the States.
Exactly.
You had quite a funny welcome into Orlando as well, that the Olympic trials are happening in Orlando today. So all of the streets were closed down, but a very patriotic welcome, I suppose.
But it's always like this. Like whenever it's like a relaxed day, everything, runs smoothly. Whenever there's like interviews or press whatever, or like signing session or whatever there is, it's always chaotic. There's always something going on in the streets, so I'm kind of used to it. And it was actually pretty cool because I had the time, I took a 5-minute walk to get here to the studio, so I could actually feel the city. Yes. I love doing that. That's actually one of my favorite things. I just we play everywhere, like every city. We're every day we're in a different city. So I love, even if I have like 5 minutes to just walk around and see how the city, feels like. That's what I like to do. So I have my Orlando walk today because of the podcast. So thank you again.
You're welcome. It's the best I could do because we couldn't get you to Disney World, which would be like the true Orlando experience.
That would have been amazing.
We do what we can.
And then we were because before here we had the 70,000 tons of metal, and before that Puerto Rico we were playing. So I was just and always the beginning of the tour is always kind of chaotic because you're still adjusting, checking on understanding how your routine's going to be and everything. So I was trying to live day by day. And then last night I was like, damn, tomorrow I'm playing Orlando and there's not a day off so I could go to any other parks. But I mean, it's not the last time I'm playing Orlando. It's definitely going to happen some other time.
Yes, that's what I love to hear.
I'll plan the next time, a day off right after it.
I love that. And what a whirlwind. And I loved what you posted on Instagram too about the cruise, the 7,000 tons of metal cruise. Yeah. Because I know you said the first time you'd done a cruise was like such a dream come true. So now to get to go back, how was it?
It was so interesting in so many ways. I've played there 8 years ago with Nervosa, and I was 26 back then. And now being back there, 34, and with a completely changed mindset. For example, I've been sober for 5 years now. So it was so different because I had an idea of how it was 8 years ago. And then I was back and it was a completely different experience. Both were great, but still very different. I noticed so many different things. First of all, damn, I was way more energetic when I was 26 than now at 34. The age thing is really a thing. I thought it was something our parents would be like, you're whenever you grow older, you know what I'm saying and everything. But I could feel it, by the end of the day, my feet were killing me. My back were killing me. I could not stay awake till 4 or 5 a.m. the way I used to. I needed to get my regular 8 hours of sleep every day. So it was just funny. And also not being sober, I guess I was able to enjoy the whole experience in different ways, back then. And it's right. I loved when I did that 8 years ago. But I guess I was more chill this time. So I had the time after we were sad. We had a 5 a.m. set by the pool deck. It was insane. I could tell a whole I could spend a whole podcast only on that specific show because it was definitely the windiest show we've ever played. It was crazy.
I mean, quite the wake-up call at 5 a.m. as well. That's how I want to wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, if it was a little less windy, it would have been better, but it was a lot of fun. But anyways, right after the set, I was, like just walking. I had some nice breakfast, and then I was walking around the cruise ship, and then at some point I was watching, like just lay there, just watching the ocean and the sunrise. I was like, yeah, I wouldn't have done that 8 years ago. So I'm happy I'm able to appreciate this now, But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was definitely a lot of fun. And with 2 different bands, like it was there with Nervosa, now with Crypta, it was a whole different thing because then it was thrash metal, now it was death metal, like these small differences. But it was really, really cool. And it was another dream come true, as always. Like, I know I've been there before, but I always wanted to play again there and always wanted to play there with Crypta. The good thing about me is that I'm always renewing my dreams. So it's really easy to me. Like someone once said, like, you say that phrase, like, a dream come true, like a lot of times, like in so many different poses. And I was like, yeah, because I'm a simple person, like I have lots of different dreams to come true. So it's kind of easy to do.
I mean, it's important to have those dreams and goals, though, because that's how you achieve them. When you have them in your minds and you're like, this is it, I'm doing the thing. It's that much more rewarding. So say it all you want.
Yeah. And also, like, again, like, for instance, we played Wacken with Crypta. That I was in Nervosa for almost a decade, and I never got a chance to do it. And then, I mean, on the last year I was there before pandemic, we were invited, and then it got canceled because of pandemics. Right. And then I left the band and everything. But then with Crypta, like first year of touring, we got confirmed in Wacken, and I was like, damn. And I thought that was my biggest dream. And then when I finished the set, I was like, it was definitely a dream come true, but now it served more as a fuel, like for other accomplishments and dreams. And I was like, okay, I'm just starting, like one of my biggest dreams just happened. So now I have room for many other stuff to come.
I think that's a common denominator between a lot of successful people, though, because I'm definitely the same way where like I achieved the thing, then I'm like, great, so now what are we doing? Exactly. And to an extent, I like to smell the roses and enjoy that I've made it to such a benchmark. I mean, something like Wacken must have been just like outrageous in the moment, but then it's like always thinking of the next thing, which I understand. But
yeah, it was awesome playing the cruise.
Yeah,
I can't wait to be back again.
And something else I want to touch on too, because I think it's quite interesting that you've done the cruise twice at 2 very different points in your life with also 2 very different lifestyles. And it's like interesting to have that common denominator of the cruise, to see that benchmark of where you were and where you are now and how you're like perceiving the experience differently. And I know that we talked quite a bit on the last episode about just kind of your lifestyle, like being sober. And I know you post about veganism and yoga and meditation and like these things that are so wonderful that you've brought into your life. Although the drinking time may have been fun, like you're onto new things. So how have those practices and like wellness and mindset practices, I suppose, translated into your creativity and your processes in the band? Because I'm sure it's major.
It's definitely major. I think like taking good care of my mental health and doing like yoga and being vegan and being sober. I think I couldn't live without those things now, at least now at the present moment. And because they play a huge part in my life, like metal is very important. Definitely. It's what made me, accomplish most of the things. But now I feel like I can't do metal or anything else if those other things aren't present for so many reasons. Not only for, ideology and stuff like that, because that is also a very important part of, like my mindset and of who I am, like seeing myself as vegan and sober. I won't say it's a flag I raise because, I don't want to get there. I don't want to be, sound like I am the annoying vegan or
You're fine.
Whatever.
I literally have a vegan tattoo.
Yeah.
So I've got the flag for you.
But really, I think it's a part of not only a part of my character nowadays, these things, but they help me function. You know, like, I have the anxiety disorder. It's way, like, it's super under control now. I'm doing fine. But I do have the thing, and we know it never goes away. So because of that, I learned I had the anxiety disorder like into 2021. And after that, I started really understanding how important routine is, how important exercise is, how important meditation and, you know, like mindfulness and all these things are very important. Like eating healthy is like a meme that I once saw, like, hey, everyone, I've got bad news. Sleeping 8 hours of sleep, eating healthy and exercising is definitely good for health. I'm sorry to inform you. But yeah, I kind of feel like this way. So yeah, I kind of need, like, my health improved a lot when I started being vegan. When I quit alcohol, like, my health, again, also improved so much. And all my surroundings, my environments, my friendships, everything, I won't say evolved, but improved so much. You know, I think now I have a better focus and I have more quality relationships and activities and a life overall after I quit drinking. So all these things combined, they definitely help me, you know, like doing what I love, which is, you know, I got to be healthy. I got to be, you know, like fit. Although there on the ship, I didn't exercise for a day and I was having like 5 meals a day, including vegan
do
brownies.
On a cruise. Yeah, that's the whole point.
Exactly. I was like, whatever. And, but yeah, they really do help me, you know, like doing a nice performance when I'm on stage and, you know, like doing therapy and all this meditation and everything and being, and all the self-improvement work I do with, you know, like with the mental health stuff that truly also helps me writing better lyrics and trying to connect with people a little better. So yeah, I think all of those things, they play a major role in my life right now. I couldn't be the Fernanda, you know, without any of those aspects. You know,
it's
like,
so refreshing too, because I don't know, maybe this is when I was in my early 20s. I always thought drinking, partying was all part of this like rock and roll metal lifestyle, right? And I was younger and just wanting to prove that I could stand with all the guys and thought that was a part of it. And so now as I'm older, I'm meeting so many musicians who are on the same boat because I don't drink now either and I'm vegan and all the things, right? I got you, girl. And it's like, that idea of what is metal, what is the rock and roll lifestyle is being completely debunked. Like, that's old school now. Like, I feel like the new way is to take care of yourself so you can be a great performer, be at top performance, because at the end of the day, people are paying for tickets, got to give them a show, right?
Yeah. And I think it's very important that you brought this up, because, I mean, it's fine if you like drinking. It's fine if you like whatever. It's definitely fine.
It's no judgment.
Yeah, at all. But I know that many people do that to fit in or to feel comfortable about themselves, about pain they're not processing and stuff like that, and many other aspects. So, like, I cannot be any other way. Like, I'm vegan because of, that's my view of the world. I'm sober because, you know, like, I could do a podcast about like why I decided to quit drinking. And I mean, there are very important parts of my character. But I feel that, so I couldn't be like any other way. This is me. Like, what you see on Instagram, it's me, you know, like, I'm not faking it, or I don't want to, that's me. Like,
you're always on an adventure, by the way, on Instagram, which I love.
Someone once commented, this girl is addicted to living. I was like, I'm going to use that. I love
that. That's such a good way to describe you. I'm always like, man, I need to get out more. Fernanda's like always doing something awesome. But that's so inspiring and such a great example.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be like an example of anything, but if by being me, I can inspire other people to feel free about themselves, then to me, it's mission accomplished. Like, I just want to be me. What you see, that's me. But I know that are other people, and I'm not saying this to, you know, like, to brag or whatever. I really don't want that. But I've got feedback, you know, like from fans and messages, like beautiful messages I get sometimes, and like some merch table talks we have after the show. And I got a lot of people saying like how much me not wearing makeup on a picture helped a girl feeling better about themselves. You know, like how me transitioning to curly hair again after chemically straightening for like years, how it helped girls feeling better about their self-esteem. Like how me being vegan made people, you know, like not eat meat on Mondays, you know, like, so I think if by doing what I like to do, I can inspire people to at least, you know, like think about all those things and think about themselves, but mainly feel comfortable about themselves the way I try to feel about myself, then to me, that's the most important thing.
Fully. I mean, honestly, I think about it. Like, if I knew of you, like, let's say I was 12 years old and then you existed at the same time, it would have been absolutely revolutionary for me, especially as, like, a Brazilian girl who's got the Brazilian curves, you know, and, like, just seeing, like, healthy, happy, thriving women where it's, like, you're just being so authentically you. It would have changed my life to have known you back then in this way. So
this truly means a lot.
Yeah, like I'm almost jealous of young girls who get to see you now. Like I wish I could have had that example.
I get some comments sometimes like of girls saying, "Oh my God, I wish there was you when I was like 12 because I liked pop." But I liked metal at the same time, so I needed to hide that I like, you know, like Beyonce, for example. And I'm like, no, hey, let's do the single, you know? So I think that's really cool because like I've always been inspired by other women in metal and in so many other areas. So I think it's so cool, you know, like to maybe humbly doing what others did for me in a way. I think that's so really cool. But at the same time, it can get not stressful, but
well, there's a pressure, isn't there?
There is, because like metal's been this way since forever, you know, like since its first day. So it's, you think of and I don't want to generalize, but usually when we think of, you know, like metal and metalheads, it's usually, you know, like Jack Daniels and sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and, you know, like all this character built around this, you know, like rock and roll metal magic. And I feel like by being me, like in a tour bus sometimes or in a tour, it can get really tough, you know? Like, I don't know if, like, people who some people I've dealt with who are in the metal scene, like, for longer than me, like, they feel weird that I'm, you know, like, I'm not doing those things they used to do or that is, like, expected for metalheads to do. So I think I feel judged most of the times, you know, like, and
the thing is, you're not for them though. Those people who think that you're not for them. You're there for the younger generation of new metal fans that are coming in who also are thinking differently. Like that older generation, they have their bands.
Yeah, that's what I try to stick to, you know, like first and foremost, what can I do? I'm like this, you know, like there's nothing I can do. I won't change. That's the way I feel comfortable. But I also, whenever I feel sad, because I feel sad, you know, like sometimes I hear stuff, very unpleasant stuff here and there, you know, like just because of the way I am and what I do. So I try to stick to the people who really have positive things to say about that and who actually feel inspired by these little things I do. It's not that I am, you know, like all the time speaking about those things. It's just like I post a picture of a virgin alcohol and like hashtag sober, and people feel offended. That's another thing, you know, like, but yeah, I've heard like very weird stuff before, and that makes me sad. I feel like I am defying a whole system in metal, but I don't do that on purpose, you know, like I do that because that's the way I am. And I know that are people who are like this too. So I'm doing this for them too, you know, but still sometimes I get like, people can be kind of aggressive towards me, you know, like with their comments and like on tour and like saying like, one of these days, a good friend of mine, a friend of mine, someone I've worked for a while, and he was like, he started asking me about like, I posted like that gigantic steak another day, and it was like a vegan Satan steak, and he started asking, what is it made of? And I was like, it's Satan. It's like a meat, fake meat made out of gluten and everything. And it was like, I don't understand why you eat meat, like the usual thing. And I'm like, okay, it's fine. I usually, ignore. But then he did like a very aggressive comment out of nowhere. And it's a person I know, and I've been friends for a while. He was like, yeah, starting from now, I'm eating twice as meat as I eat, so your effort doesn't make a difference in the world. I was like, what the fuck? What did I do to you, dude? It's so crazy. I get like, like little jokes here and there, like, hey, this dressing room is just for people who don't drink. And I'm like, yeah, but I drink kombucha. Yeah, but kombucha, it's like a hipster wannabe vegan cool person. I was like, yeah, that's why I drink it. That's what I. So I get these comments here and there, and like, oh, you don't drink? Oh, how boring and stuff like that. And I get frustrated. I'm human, like, although I cannot be any other way, it can get frustrated, and I don't want to defy anyone. Like, I don't want to turn everyone into what I do. I don't want to defy your system, dude. Chill. I'm just being myself.
I mean, in my own ways, I've felt those kind of things too. I think, and not to pull out the women card, but for sure, we're under more scrutiny because we are women, 100%. And the thing is, I always had to remind myself when I would get comments of similar scrutiny, it's like, that says more about those people than it will ever say about you. But it's so hard when you're in the midst of feeling so down about it, or it's you're still a human, like you said. But it's like you have to keep reminding yourself, that's about them. That is their problem.
That is their problem. It's hard, to take all those projections.
At the same time, just by being yourself, you're not telling anyone else what to do. So
it's like, do whatever you want. If you want to eat twice as meat, it's your problem, not mine.
I mean, good luck with your digestion.
I genuinely don't care, I don't really mind. And not to pull the women card, but since you mentioned that, I have a very good example, because like I've dated for 5 years a guy that was vegan straight edge for like almost 30 years. And I know that the same person who did all these jokes about vegan and alcohol, like towards me, they would never, and they have never, because I know them, did the same jokes to my ex-boyfriend.
And there you have it.
Because I don't understand why is it this way, but I'm kind of used to it. But I was thinking about that, and I actually discussed this with my ex, and I was like, do you think this person would have made the same jokes with you? He was like, hell no. He comes to our dressing room and he's like hugging us.
It's true.
You're amazing. You're the best. I'm like, so yeah, that's it.
And drop the mic on that, because it's so true. Like, we are under microscopes simply because of who we are, and that's a shame.
Yeah.
But I guess kind of while we're on the topic of the women battles, I just want to ask one more thing about it, and then we can focus on more positive things. But I sort of had an interesting thought when I was thinking about Crypta, where I was like, oh, it's so cool, like, whoa, a band full of women. And then I backtracked and I was like, why is this a rarity? Why am I finding this so impressive? Like, this shouldn't be something that's novelty. So why do you think it is that it's so rare to see? I mean, female front women we see, but like the full band. Do you think there's something going on that makes it harder for women to get into playing other instruments or like forming bands? Like, what's the hang up, or how do we fix it?
I got a similar question in one of the interviews I did a while ago, but it was made in a different way. It was made something like, why girl bands just can't keep their lineups and stuff like that. Like, I was like, oh, dude. So I was like, it's not what you think, because women fight more with each other. Because
for sure, probably it has that connotation. That's what he was trying to get out of you. That is the connotation,
exactly. And I was like, it's not what you think. But I think it's a combination of things. And first and foremost, try to bring it to this more positive side that you said. I think it's been getting better. I think it's been progressively getting better. You see more and more bands with like 1, 2, or like full, like girl bands. Yeah. So I think it's progressively getting better. I think women are feeling more and more comfortable. So yeah, we're definitely on our way of, like achieving this equality in the metal scene, I guess. But I think it's a combination of factors that makes us still like not getting, like lots of full all-girl bands and stuff like that. First of all, because like for a while it's still a male-dominated scene. So, and we know how watching other girls playing and singing inspire us.
Totally.
Like if I play and sing nowadays, it's because Girls' School and Dora Passion, Rock Goddess influenced me a lot. So, but still, it used to be just a handful, like of women playing, and now it's getting better and better. But still, like, I think it's a slow process. Like, we're still, like, every time there's a new girl playing, like in a band on stage, it will inspire 3 more. But it's a slow process.
It's like a little snowball effect. And hopefully you playing in this band that you're playing in is like the more people that you can affect, the more bands we could see 10 years from now.
Exactly. So I think like when I started with Nervosa, it was a completely different scene, like, and it was like 13 years ago. So 13 years ago when I had Nervosa, and before that I only had like all girl bands too. But I could feel, because I was in all girl bands like since I was like 15 or 16. I know like it's been changing. It's been getting better, but this influence representativeness. Sorry, my English is not working today for some reason.
I totally.
Anyways, it's just like it's too much stuff for me to talk. So yeah, I think the representativeness thing, like of watching a girl and then feeling inspired and then getting your own band together, like it's helping a lot. But I also think that what it's been contributing for it to get better is also that, like sometimes we think that this talk we have on feminism and veganism and, like all these, like this talks we have like a lot nowadays and all these subjects and everything, they really make a difference. Mm-hmm. Like people tend to think like, oh, here they come again with the feminist thing or whatever. It truly helps, like it truly helps because some men who really want to understand it better. So they kind of change their behavior, and this makes us feel more comfortable in the metal scene. And also, like us as girls, we feel empowered by this kind of talk. So we kind of feel more comfortable or taking us steps in the metal scene. So I think this is another factor. But it's, again, like the society has been like the way we know, like patriarchal and everything for centuries. Yeah. So it's going to be small steps, like every decade there's going to be a difference, but it's tiny steps, like nowadays we have more girls because they can feel more represented and because, they can feel more comfortable. There's still a long way to go. But if we do little by little, it's just like bricks, like in 1 year we'll have like a huge wall. It's the same thing, like it's little work here and there. But I think it's just time now. The only thing we need is, of course, a lot of work from us who are active in the metal scene already. We still have to be, like working a lot and talking about these things and occupying places, women in arts and in whatever we want to do. But also be patient because it will take time and we're doing our best and it's going to get better the same way. Like it's definitely better than it was like 30 years ago when metal was.
Totally. I mean, even I think we kind of were on the scene around the same time because I started, I was like 15 years old. That's 13 years? 14? Anyways, all that to say, it has changed a lot in that time.
It has.
So much. So yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see where we're in another 12 years where we're at.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to be way better and there's going to be like way more girls just as they are now, like there are a lot of amazing musicians and bands out there.
Totally.
Full with talented girls. And also the last thing that you said, that what keeps like preventing like more girl bands to happen or being created. I think the other thing is that we know that it is so hard to be a woman and try to do anything that before was like male dominated, you know, like occupations that were for decades expected for men to it's not develop the word I want to say, men to perform.
Yeah.
And so it's tough, you know, it's so hard for us, you know, like to be there. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of prejudice. There's a lot of, you know, like you just got to be perfect on whatever you do. Otherwise it's going to be so tough. So
it's like basically women have to be 110%
exactly.
better than the guys, like to occupy the same space.
Yeah.
Like we just have to overperform really.
The demand like on so many levels over us women is just like extreme on whatever we want to do. So
normally extreme in metal is a good term, but in this case I'm not so sure.
Exactly. But I think something that I really would like to mention is that before, like sometimes I get asked like about how do I feel about the terms, you know, like all female band or like all girl band and female fronted. And when I started with my bands and till like halfway through and I was in nervous, I used to get bothered by this, you know, I was like, no, it's a band. It's not all female band. It's a band, you know, like we're equal. Yeah. But now I raise this flag. Yes, it is an all girl band. And I raise this flag because we go through very specific struggles being women in the metal scene. Struggles that only us girls know we have to face every day. Like, you know, like from being prevented to get in our own dressing rooms, from being taught how to use volume buttons and amplifiers and stuff like that. So we go through very specific struggles. And I'm proud to say that I'm a girl in the metal scene because it's hard, man. Yeah. Like it's hard. It's not easy. So nowadays, yeah, Crypta is an all-female metal band. And I'm proud of that because only we know how hard it was, you know, like to get here. So that's what I usually say. I'm not bothered. Call me an all-girl band because I'll proudly wear this.
That is such a wonderful evolution to feel so proud. And it's so true. I mean, I've had many a day of getting questioned about credentials and all kinds of things. So it's so true. Like it's quite the journey. And two, talking about like kind of girl power in the music scene on a positive note as well. I was so excited to talk to you about Beyonce and Lana Del Rey and Amy Winehouse in our last interview. I could have gone on the whole episode talking about that stuff.
Definitely.
But the one thing I notice, not only between them, but also with you with Shades of Sorrow, is like the confessional, really honest lyrics, the way you wrote from your journal and like about the different shades of pain and, you know, trials that you've been through. And that's something that also those artists did too. And I think there's really something to be said about the way you can connect with an artist just through the lyrics. Like you can feel what they are feeling, or for some reason you may feel heard in a certain way. So I really want to talk about that, like why you think lyrics can help kind of deepen the loyalty with a fan base or that connection you have with people who listen to your music.
Once I was talking to a very famous singer in our metal scene, a good friend of mine. She's a girl too. And we were talking. She's very sensitive on her lyrics too. And she said something really interesting that really kept bugging me in a positive way in my mind. And she said, happiness connects people, but pain connects us in a deeper level. And that stuck on my mind because I knew I wanted to write these kind of lyrics for Crypta, mainly the second album. And so, yeah, on this thing, I would like to say that, first of all, like the albums you mentioned, they were really inspirational to me. Yeah. And what made me try and do something like that was exactly how I felt about those lyrics. Because when I was listening to Lemonade, when I was listening to Back to Black, and back to Black, and when I was listening to Ultraviolence, I was going through different periods of a lot of pain, you know, like, and those albums really made me feel that I was not alone in my pain, because like I know those girls, they wrote those albums when they were in a lot of pain, and I connected to them in a very deep way. I felt like they were by my side, you know, like I felt like I was like crying on their shoulder, because I was like, okay, what I feel is horrible, but I know they've been through, and they are Beyonce. They are Amy Winehouse, you know, so it's okay for me to be sad, and it's okay for me to be hurting. And that's why those artists are very important to me, you know, not only musically, I really enjoy that music, but this deeper connection. And then when I had the transition from Nervosa to Crypta, it was thrash metal and then death metal. I knew I had like a blank page. I could write about whatever I wanted. And thrash metal was really easy for me to write because it was basically protest songs. Yeah. And I'm always protesting about everything all the time.
There's a lot to say.
There's a lot to say. So I was like, it was very natural and organic for me to write like that. But then when I was, okay, now I'm in a death metal band, I cannot write about demons and I cannot write about, you know, like graphic guts being teared open stuff because I do not have repertoire for such, you know. Like, so I was like, what will I write about? And then I was thinking a lot about how connected I felt to those artists and how inspired they made me feel. And then I was like, okay, so maybe I can explore this darker side because, you know, like death metal is still gotta be, I still wanted to make it, you know, like dark and heavy. But how can I do that and at the same time connect in a deeper level to those who are, you know, like listening to my music? And then I experimented some of that in Echoes of the Sorrow first album, but definitely way more in Shades of Sorrow because it's like, as we talked the other time, it's like it's nearly a concept album because it talks about a journey through pain. And then I really had the freedom to actually pour it all out, you know, like just purge the whole thing. So when I was writing that, those lyrics, not only they were like my dearest tool of expressing myself and processing all that trauma and pain, because that's what it happens when you are talking your trauma to someone or when you write, you are processing it. So that was the best way I found to process and you know, like to actually feel those things one last time, not one last time, but you know, like figuratively speaking. Yeah. But also I found it would be a nice way of connecting with my fans in a deeper level because like we all hurt, you know, like we all go through trauma. We all have our, you know, like the dark side of our minds and our shadow within. We all have difficult stuff we need to process. We all, you know, like we all got through heartbreaks and stuff like that. And so we all hurt. And I wanted to talk to that part of my fans, to that hurt part there that you felt no one understood and that only you felt. I use my lyrics to say, hey, you're not alone in your pain. The same way Beyonce and Amy talked to me. It was like, hey, I see you're hurting. And I want to talk to that hurt part of your heart and let's hurt together.
I mean, I think lyrics that really go into that kind of stuff are even more powerful than saying something like, oh, you're not alone. I feel your pain. Like when you can actually express it the way that you do, that changes everything because you know you're heard. Because someone's somehow articulating it perfectly.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Like, for example, this song we have called The Other Side of Anger. I specifically wanted to have a song about anger because lots of her, and it's actually, if you study, I'm all into psychology. And if you study a little bit of psychology, you know that the anger is a very important part of processing trauma. Like it is normal to get angry, you know, like, and so many people feel guilty for being angry, for feeling angry. So I was like, I have to write lyrics about that. Like, I know you're angry and you have the right to be angry but I've been there too. I know how it feels. Right. So I'm writing this song so you can get comfortable with your anger and, you know, like process it in a healthy way, knowing that it's normal.
There's no shame about it.
Yeah, there's no shame about it. That's the thing. And that's why I'm so straightforward on all those lyrics, you know, like, I don't know if I mentioned on the other interview, but I was using my personal diaries to write these lyrics. And like most of the lines you see there, they were literally written when I was like crying out loud, just writing my pain away, you know, like, so that's how raw I wanted it to be, because I wanted to connect with the hurt part of my fans. And the interesting thing is that when we did the other interview, the album was about to be released.
I know.
And so I remember I was talking like, I hope I can connect to people. I hope people are gonna like, I hope. And now, like several months later, I can definitely say that mission was accomplished.
Yes. Yeah. I was wondering, I'm like, I know it went well because I could see that it's going really well. But yeah, like to have that follow-up of like, it's worked. What you hoped has happened. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And I couldn't be any happier. I've cried so many times, like with fans on merch tables, because they were telling me how the songs helped them not feeling alone or like recovering from like, you know, like very dark stuff. And I got fans tattooing like parts of the songs in their, you know, like in their skin, because they were like, yeah, that's my mantra from now on when I feel like I'm alone and stuff like that. And I had done a little bit of that with Echoes of the Soul, with like From the Ashes, which is a song about, you know, like a rebirth and being reborn from the ashes and everything, whatever the ashes are, and or represent. But with Shades of Sorrow, that happened way more. Like totally. I've got people saying that they were having a panic attack, and then they remember that our song Dark Clouds is about me having, you know, like my panic, anxious attacks, and that they listened to the song and, you know, like it made them feel calmer. That makes me really emotional, because sometimes when I was having like panic attacks and anxiety attacks, I felt so alone. And I wish there was like a calming song for me that would make, you know, like my nerves ease. So to me, it means the world that something that I love doing can actually help someone go through one of the worst things out there, which is like a panic attack. It's awful. So I can definitely say like mission's accomplished. I'm so happy. Like so many people, I didn't feel represented with like the outsider that talks, you know, like about not fitting in and feeling inadequate. And lots of people can relate to Dark Clouds, which talks about anxiety and stuff like that. And Stronghold, it talks about fear and apathy, like that's very present in people with anxiety and depression and stuff like that. So, and Lullaby for the Forsaken. Oh, Lullaby is another one that people can really feel represented, because it talks about loneliness and stuff like that. So if by having a song that talks about loneliness, people can feel less alone, I feel just great. So yeah, feedback's been great. And I feel that, and I say that again, not from a place of like, yeah, I'm bragging about my lyric, but no, really, like I'm genuinely happy that this worked. And this is definitely something that I want to keep on doing. Like I still want to be connecting to the hurt part of people and saying, hey, we're in this together.
And what a beautiful thing, too, that you were looking for that solace that you couldn't find in other music. Like you were saying, you wish you could have had a song like that. And so you went out and created it. Like, what an empowering thing that you could now say, like, all right, I did this for all of you because I didn't have that. Like, I mean, I hope we can only find more metal artists who can be as vulnerable and honest as you, because I can say as well, like, I definitely feel like I can see myself in your music too. So
thank you so much.
It's wonderful.
And this is another thing that I really want to be talking about more and more, vulnerability.
Yes.
Because I feel like mainly, I mean, everywhere in society nowadays, you have to be strong and like active and cool all the time.
Nah, girl, I'm over here having a breakdown every second. Let's get vulnerable.
Exactly. So I want to, I did a post like some time ago, and I was like, okay, this post is gonna flop, but I don't mind. I'm writing it for myself and for whoever wants to talk about this. And then I got millions of messages, and it was a post where I was meditating and crying. Mm-hmm. And I intentionally recorded that because I knew I was gonna cry on that meditation, because I know it was gonna be a tough one. So yeah, I recorded knowing I was gonna cry, but And it was a post talking about vulnerability, like about the power of vulnerability, you know, like most people are so lost because they don't want to get in touch with their hurt parts. But little they know that we can only thrive by solving those goddamn, you know, like little hurt parts of ourselves. So I really want to talk about this more and more because, like vulnerability is so powerful that it made me connect to, like hundreds of fans out there just by writing how awful I felt after a panic attack, so we need to talk more about this because, again, happiness connects people, but pain, I think, connects people in a deeper way.
Totally. I mean, actually, there was a book I read by author Brene Brown. I don't know if you've looked into her at all. But she has a book called Daring Greatly. And basically the whole thing talks about how vulnerability actually takes more strength than pretending you're strong. There is so much strength and power in vulnerability, but it's about reframing that mindset around it, where it's not weakness. It's actually so brave and so strong. And I'm sure writing this album, you have to have a lot of bravery to publish those lyrics and to put that out there. Like it's not for the weak. Yeah,
they're so personal. And I think, I think it's just really important that we know that us sensitive, vulnerable people, we're so brave. We're often in this perfect society we live in, we're often labeled as weak. But vulnerability that's a tough word for me to talk. Vulnerability.
It's a long word.
Yeah. It's
how do you say it in Portuguese?
Vulnerabilidade, which is probably more difficult.
Vulnerabilidade.
Yes, vulnerabilidade.
With the worst American accent you've ever heard. I need a little practice on that.
It's not that. It's not bad. It's not bad. But vulnerability is power, like if you ever feel like vulnerable people are weak, try and do some shadow work. Do that. Do some shadow work. Like type on YouTube or whatever, like shadow work meditation and do that. Like face your demons and then you'll see if vulnerable people are strong or not.
It's like facing the villain in a Disney movie.
Yeah, exactly. But the villain is yourself.
It's yourself.
It's a fucking mess. But anyways.
But then it explains everything and you're like, whoa, I get it now.
Like I had to cry a lot and like nearly like pull my hairs out. But now I get it and I feel so calm. Oh, that was all I needed to do. Wow, I could have done it earlier.
But obviously Shades of Sorrow is such a powerful album. And like, not only is it somewhat a concept album, but there's so much imagery in the artwork. And then I remember we did the show and tell of like the vinyl packaging and the color red. Like there's so much going on with the album itself. And now on this headlining tour, it's like bringing it all to life. So I feel like personally when I see an album live, it like brings new life to the music. So Definitely. Are you feeling like there's certain things that your live show on this run is going to add to the experience of the album?
Definitely. In so many ways. First, because, like an album is an album. It's a really cool experience, but the live thing is so cool to see how, at least when I go to a show and I see, like all the band members feeling the music their own way. I think it's so interesting to watch that. Like some people feel more like, yeah, I need to, like pull that out. But then, and some other ones are just like, so I love seeing that. So I think that brings a lot of life to the music that we created to be in an album and then later live. Also, I think, like, I'm talking from my perspective, whenever I go on stage, like, I really feel every note I'm singing. Like, I really feel every note I'm singing. And sometimes I get emotional because, like, on that specific day, I really needed to hear that sentence I created again. And I'm like, oh, that one hit hard today. And then sometimes I get emotional.
That must be tough to relive that every single night.
To me, it sometimes, most of the times, I feel genuinely happy on singing those lyrics because it's like, wow, I survived all those things, You
can look at it kind of retrospectively.
Yeah. And I feel great because, like, I know where I was when I wrote them. And now, like, I'm here doing my favorite thing and, like, connecting with people through those experiences. So it's always nearly always a happy place. Sometimes it's a therapy session because I hear those specific lyrics. I'm like, oh, I really needed to hear that today. And also, I feel really happy on connecting to the fans. I know there's some energy exchange and that can be bad, like, so I rarely feel bad about singing those lyrics. But that's a very personal thing. I know Amy Winehouse, for example, didn't like singing Back to Black a lot because it reminded her of those times. I remind my I remember those times, but in a more positive, like outlook. So
I suppose it's just mindset and how you're looking at it.
Yes.
It could totally go either way. So it's really up to you.
But yeah, and I think like when people watch us live on this tour, I think they'll be able to see how we and I feel about those lyrics. There's my favorite sentence from my favorite paragraph from The Outsider. I tattooed this on my like, it's kind of corny to tattoo your own lyrics, but I had to. I love that part. And this part is a part that I always put a lot of energy when I'm singing. And I think it might be interesting for people to actually see how we're dealing with our own music there. And also we're bringing like all those elements on stage, like the red fabric, the swords and everything. They're going to be on stage too. So yeah, it's basically just bring the whole album to life in a best possible way, which is, like a live show.
Well, I cannot wait to see the show later. I will be there. So I don't know how I'm going to react, if I'm going to be one of those that's like, or if I'm just going to.
Or just like,
just crying. You look over, you're like, oh, is she good? She okay?
Sorry, I didn't mean to with the lyrics.
No, it is all good. And this is like a total side tangent, but one of the last questions I wanted to ask, because honestly, it's out of my own personal curiosity since, we kind of bonded over the fact that I'm half Brazilian. So I know like enough about the culture, but you obviously living in Brazil probably know way more about the music scene than I do, because when I go over there, for me, it's like samba, bossa nova, like carnival's going on this week as we're recording this. And obviously metal's like not what I first associate with Brazil, but I know you also had a father who was a big metalhead.
Yes.
So what is like the music scene like over there? And do you identify at all with like more of the traditional Brazilian music too?
Yeah. First talking about metal, I think the Latin American metal scene is amazing. I think it's definitely one of the most passionate, most loyal fans out there in the world. Like, I love playing the US, I love playing Europe, I love playing Asia, but when I get to play Latin America, it's something different. People
they do say come to
naturally
Brazil
wild.
for a reason,
yeah,
right? Like,
exactly.
Y'all are excited.
We're all waiting. Just bring it on. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's an amazing metal scene, which I'm very proud to be a part of. Like, very proud, because we're warriors, like there, because it's so hard for us to buy instruments, to, like paying for a rehearsal room can be really expensive, when you have, like money strictly for your bills, and that's how most of Latin Americans live. So it's really tough. It's definitely not easy. And we're warriors, because like we still, like, with all those issues and difficulties, we're still like some of the most passionate fans out there. So I think it's an amazing metal scene, and also it's a very rich metal scene in terms of like there are so many bands.
I have to get back out there.
So many. You have to. It's just so many bands, and in Latin America we have way more all-girl bands than anyone else I've played in the whole world.
I have to go to Brazil. We're recording podcasts in Brazil one day. I
could mention like 1,000 bands, like all-girl or like female-fronted bands, like Scrutta and Torture Squad. There's Mayara the singer. There's Pandora. There's, oh my God, it's so many like all-girl bands in all Latin America. So yeah, it's amazing, and yeah, that's it. And as for Brazilian music, I'm in a very typical Brazilian music phase for like a year now. Yeah, it was actually on my on that app that makes, like the review of like what you listen to the most in the end of the year. So I was checking that, and then like traditional Brazilian music was, I think, like second place besides metal, like, so I was listening to a lot of Brazilian music, and I get more and more passionate every time about it. Brazilian music, it's amazing. You know, like,
It's
Brazil
beautiful.
is huge, and like each state or region there have their like own little world of typical music, which differs from each other in amazing ways. Like, one, like the music, the typical music from the South is completely different from the typical music from the Northeast, and they're all amazing, you know, like. And to me, it's been very important to be more and more in touch with, you know, like, all these different subgenres of music in Brazil, because not only it makes me feel so proud about where I come from, because our music is really so rich, but also it inspires me. There are there's a genre called maracatu in Brazil that is so intense, and the notes that they use are so, you know, like, can get really not creepy, but like dissonant sometimes. They're amazing. It sounds massive, and I really want to bring a little bit of that to our music. Not, you know, like the rhythm or anything, but the way they build the note progression and everything. So it ends up inspiring me as an artist too, you know, like as a musician, like, oh my God, how come I never thought of that combination of notes? That's amazing. So yeah, I've been more and more into Brazilian music. I even created a
playlist?
A playlist. How did I forget this word? I even created a playlist with like Brazilian music. Every new Brazilian like song I really like, I put there. And sometimes it's like genres that the Brazilian metalheads like condemn, and they're like, no, you cannot listen to that as a metalhead, and then I secretly do.
But that's the thing. Yeah. I think what you were saying before, how you were saying some other women were saying, oh, if I knew of you when I was 12, because I liked pop, but I also liked metal. Once again, there is no shame in liking other genres of music. I will sit here and listen to Miley Cyrus at the same time that I'm listening to Crypta, and that is okay.
That is okay.
And that is okay. And doesn't make me any less of a metalhead either. So listen to your Brazilian music. Absolutely.
Actually, if you're an artist, a musician, it's actually a good thing that you listen to other. It's necessary. Otherwise, you'll always stick to that formula. And, you know, like, eventually people will get tired of that formula. So it's always a good thing, you know, like, to evolve as a musician by listening to other stuff. You know, it's not that you're bringing Beyonce elements to your song, but definitely,
feel free.
But I mean,
well,
but I mean, if she can inspire me, she inspired me for the lyrics. Lyrics that so many metalheads now get inspired by, you know, like, so that's how you get inspired by other genres. You don't need to incorporate the elements. What I'm saying is that, you know, like, it helps you as a musician to listen to some other stuff. That's what I think. You do whatever you think is best.
But if you ever want to drop the bass and do some choreography instead, we're cool with that. You know, if you want to dance a little, you know, Beyonce moves.
One of my main, like, I have a top list of what I want to start doing this year. Dancing is one of them. I love dancing. Since I was a kid, I was dancing. There are some typical like Brazilian genres that really involve dancing. And then I would do that as a kid. And also, you know, like, I was sports Spice from Spice Girls when I was a kid. So I was dancing. I knew all the moves for Spice Girls and everything. So since I was a kid, I was really keen to dancing. And now I kind of lost it. And now I'm listening to a lot of pop, and I was like, no, I want to dance, you know? So I might take dancing lessons, but till the end of the year. Let's see. If I do, you'll know, because I post everything. But yeah, I think it's good for the mental health too, dancing. Yes. So yeah, not saying I'm dancing in Crypta. My moves in Crypta are more acrobatic, like the picture I posted today, like very yoga-ish.
And your wide stance is impressive as well. It is powerful, you know?
I don't know. I can only do that on stage. If you ask me to do here, I'll probably just knock my head on the ground. That's it. But yeah, that's yoga, man. All those legs.
Let's go.
All the leg work needed to, you know, like, serve a purpose in metal too.
It pays off. It pays to work hard. This has been so amazing. Like, thank you so much for this catch up. Like, just come on the podcast every few months, and I would love to. We'll just talk shit.
Yeah, every time. If we want to do this, like, whenever I'm touring here, let's just do it. I mean, if you don't get tired of me talking all the time.
And let's hope the Olympic trials aren't going on the next time because, again, chaos in Orlando today. But
it's going to be something else.
It's going to be something else.
It's going to be like a parade of whatever. It's always like that on tour.
Totally. You bring the fun, you bring the chaos and the energy.
That's my energy. Chaotic but fun. That's it.
No, it's so good. But seriously, never stop being you. Like, I love seeing what you're doing on Instagram. And if anybody gives you a hard time, you send them my way and I will just put them in their place.
Are you serious about that? Because
Let's go.
You're going to start like...
I'll fight. Look, this is the Female Empowerment Podcast. So anybody who has something to say that's not empowering, I'm coming for you.
Oh, yeah. I'll with that.
But have an amazing tour. I'll see you tonight at the show. And everybody watching, make sure you check out Shades of Sorrow, Crypta, if you haven't already. You can catch them on tour by the time this podcast comes out. I'm sure there's going to be some tour dates still to check out. And, here on KNOTFEST, tune into the podcast every other week and subscribe and follow and review if you like it. And we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Thank you.